before I became a devotee, when I'd heard of surrender, surrender was like a real, it was like, like they say, rehab is for quitters. Surrender was like for people that want to throw the towel in, It wasn't like a good thing. It was like, if you surrendered to something, it was like a poor show, you could have put up a better fight than that. So then our understanding of what surrender meant from being a negative thing became a positive thing,
It's funny because I guess so many things of spiritual life are the opposite of material life. So many of these desirable qualities, like to surrender, to be a servant. It's like, why would you want to be a servant? Like, who? That's what I want to be a king, not a servant. So
Yeah, and then we want to be king of servants. Okay, I'll be a servant, but I'm going to be a better servant than anybody else.
Yeah.
Look at him over there. He calls himself a servant, but he's not serving anywhere near as enthusiastically and competently as I am,
Yeah, I've just been reading the prayers of Gajendra. That's why I thought we could talk about surrender.
Funny, I am as well. I'm at that part right now in the back of the time. Yeah.
Could read together.
Yeah, the final thing is it describes the heavenly situation, all the different trees and the birds, and then even amidst all that, a crocodile on the end of his leg. So, and that's in the heavenly planets. It's thousands and thousands of times better there, and even there you can find yourself in a quite a nasty situation. Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Like Prabhupada was saying as well, how, all of us are in that position. All of us have a crocodile on the end of our leg, and all of us should just surrender. But that's why I wanted to ask you, I know that I should surrender. What are the things which are stopping me from being able to do that, or stopping us in general from being able to do that?
Well, we access the benefits of surrender during japa. So according to how much we've been surrendering up until that point when we put the hand in the bead bag is going to determine how well the Holy Name is going to reciprocate with us. So we're able to tune in on our level of surrender when we start chanting. And I just heard, where did I get this from? Somebody just gave me, it was from a class by Guru Govinda Maharaj. And he was saying, in our conditioned state, we can't call for Krishna. But we have to hear Krishna calling for us when we're chanting. And I was thinking, that's amazing. Actually, Krishna is the one who's proactive in this whole thing, because we kind of stumbled across a book. Prabhupada was sent directly from the spiritual world. The whole thing was an intervention. Krishna pushed his way in proactively and decided, I want to pull you out. And so we're trying to reciprocate with that. So initially, the original surrender was Krishna. Krishna surrendered to us. He came out of his way to make a whole arrangement. Lord Chaitanya came down. That was the whole strategy. All his generals were there, all the different devotees, and then a succession of acharyas coming down, and then the spearhead of everything, Srila Prabhupada, comes, and then the whole thing explodes, and that's all been initiated by Krishna, then Lord Chaitanya, and here we are, swept away in the mercy. So we're trying to reciprocate. Srila Prabhupada surrendered so much to come and give us this, and then gave up so much sleep and worked so hard to give us the books. And we're trying to reciprocate. It's like we're trying to reciprocate with the surrender, and we can never really reciprocate with the amount of surrender that's been offered to us. We're just trying to do a tiny glimpse of the surrender that's been shown to us.
It's interesting. I remember a couple of years ago, Sri Ramaraj gave a class on the 5 or 6 items of surrender, and he said that the principal item of surrender is to accept Krishna as your guardian, to accept that everything that's happening to you is the direct kind of caring mercy of the Lord. So if your guardian's chastising you, then it's for your benefit. If your guardian's giving you something good, then it's for your benefit. So it's that kind of like we have to try and hear Krishna calling for us. We have to try and see where Krishna is looking after us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, what it reminded me of is it's a shift from being like the monkey, the baby monkey, to being like the kitten, because the little monkey is hanging on for dear life, like the yogis. They are having to practice by their own strength and their own sense control, but the bhakti yogis are different. They've become malleable in the hands of the Lord, and they just want to, like Srila Prabhupada said in his prayers, Boston Harbor, just make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. Well, whatever you want to do. So if we were chanting like that, I'm putting myself in your hands. I'm chanting this mantra, but only by your mercy do I even have the mantra in the first place. And it's actually you're calling for me. And I'm trying to reciprocate with that call. I'm trying to hear you calling for me in the mantra. That you want me, the mantra wants me more than I'm kind of going along reluctantly, and the mantra is pulling me back to Goloka.
Yeah. It's interesting though to see, because in my experience, when I first moved in and joined up, it was like this big mood of surrender. Like, yeah, I'm going to give up everything. I'm moving in the temple. I'm giving up my hair. I'm going to wear these weird clothes. I'm going to put this thing on my forehead. Like, I'm giving it all up, giving it all up. And it's like Krishna reciprocates with that surrender. But then over the years coming, that he's kind of shown me where I'm not actually really, I haven't given anything up. So it's like, he gives me these like, oh, you still want to give this up? And I'm kind of like, actually, no, I kind of still want to keep that. You still want to give this up? Actually, no, I kind of want to keep that as well. And then finding yourself in a situation where actually you're trying to hold on to everything. And like you said, the chanting dries up. And
yeah, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur says, when mundane thoughts come into your mind when you're chanting, don't slacken in your attempt. So generally what happens is we grab firmly hold of the holy name initially, because everything's depending on us getting some profound experience, and we're thinking, I want to be devoted, I want to be the commitment, but I'm going to need that really strong connection to pull me out of everything. And then that happens, we get pulled out of everything. We think fantastic, but the initial reason why we surrendered was because we were in distress, and then the distress gets taken away, and then we decide to relax. We relax, and we think, well, okay, now I'm a vegetarian, and I know you shouldn't have sex outside of marriage for anything other than, so I know all the rules now. So maybe I can just get back into the material energy, but I'll do it in such a way that I won't get any reactions, and everything will be okay. I'll just feel like a kind of a clever sense enjoyer.
And as I was reading, because my mind's been going along those kind of ways of thinking also, like, okay, how can I live out all of my material desires in a way that's connected to Krishna and it's karma free, and I can do all this. But then refreshingly, if you read Nectar of Instruction, the second verse, the 6 types of nonsense, like Prabhupada really is like slicing, like he's really clear, like for me at least, he's clear that no, this isn't really going to work. It's not really conducive to devotional service to try and play the game like that,
And then Shri Ramash, Sri Bhakti Chintamani, he says the indirect path is misleadingly easy. So you think if you take the indirect path, where you can go the long way around, there's Nivritti Marg and Pravritti Marg, isn't it? So Pravritti Marg is you're going to enjoy your senses along the way. But because of that, then the whole thing becomes agonizingly slower than it would be than if you just did I had it described, it's like going through the mulberry bush, because if you want to go through the mulberry bush with the least amount of pain, then you take a run up to it and you go clean through in half of a second, or you can get dragged through the mulberry bush over a period of 60 years backwards, a billionth of a millimeter a day, and excruciatingly, agonizingly slowly, you're pulled eventually through it, But why prolong the agony?
So how does one find like the courage to actually put the head down and go for it? Because that's the courage you need to surrender, isn't it? Like the
Yeah, it's just the keeping the momentum up. If we're in a marathon, and then when the marathon stops, then we slacken off, and then we're just going to wait for the next marathon. I mean, you can do that, but it'd be better that when the marathon's off, you still keep trotting along. You know, you're maybe not going full steam because you just burn yourself out, but you're not going to slow right down either, because if you do slow right down, then you're going to have to go through all that turmoil and trauma again when the next marathon comes, trying to push yourself out the comfort zone and trying to. If you can just keep doing some form of sacrifice continually, then it's not so difficult. You know, it's when you slow down and then you have to try and get back into it. But if you can just keep it going, keep things moving, keep things ticking over, try and work out what pace you can maintain, you know, realistically, and keep that up. I mean, it's funny. We had a meeting last night. It was a reunion with all the devotees that joined between 78 and 86. And they're all Jaya Tirtha or Bhagavan disciples. So I was a Bhagavan disciple. And so they're there. And altogether there's about 200 of us potentially. And on the meeting was about 15 or 16. You can see how some of them have not kept so strict with their Krishna consciousness and have slackened off. But their heart is still in the right place, and they still remember Krishna. Maybe do some chanting, do some service. But not so much, you know. And it just makes you see that it's better if you can just keep going, keep following the regulative principles, keep doing some service, keep trying to help with the preaching, keep chanting rigidly, 16 rounds every day, come hell or high water. Those things should be there, you know, bedrock. And then if they are there, then the other silly little things, they'll come and they'll go. But don't allow those things to distract us from doing the main things, you know. It's like they say when the guy was filling his jar, he filled it with rocks and he said, is it full? And they said, yeah. And then he got some sand and he said, is it full? And they said, yeah. And then he got some water. And then it was actually full, you know. And if you can get the rocks in there, then all of that stuff, you can always fit it in later on. And the rocks are 16 rounds, 4 regs, help with the preaching, you know. And then all the goofy stuff can just come in between all that, you know. But if you fill your jar up with water and sand, you won't have room for the rocks.
Yeah, it's true. Rocks first. Yeah, this is one thing as well, because last week you were talking about keeping the preaching, keep the preaching active. And I've been listening to Shiva Maharaj. He's been saying, you know, everyone should go on Sankirtan once a week, 1 day a week.
Yeah.
And I've just found this past week or two, we've been doing a lot of Sankirtan, and like the book distribution, it keeps you very honest. Like it keeps you, like if your consciousness is off, then you're going to have an off day. And like you can go, like for me today, I was just like going all day trying to stop people. No one was stopping, and I could feel it was because my consciousness was off. But I just kept going. I didn't get much result. Distributed some books, but I just kept going. I just realized like my sadhana needs to be better if I'm going to actually do this. Like, it's
which is a good result. It's a good result to get it. It's a better result to get that than to do 1,000 books and think you're really going places and not realize that your sadhana is useless. Because you can do that. You could run on the strength of your karma. You may have a very charismatic personality, very attractive body, and people respond, especially the opposite sex, will respond because they're thinking maybe this is going to go somewhere else, which it doesn't. But they think that, and then you do well on Sankirtan, and then one day the karma runs out, and then you realize you haven't been surrendering at all. You've been riding along on your good karma, and today's the day it ran out. So if you can handle it now when it's tough, then that's good. That shows that you can be in it for the long haul. You can tolerate it and maintain determination.
But I think it also links to that point of accepting Krishna as our guardian. Like today I read that verse, the enemy is put to death by my arrangement, be an instrument in the fight. So like, if we just focus on doing the duty and being an instrument and accepting that Krishna is the guardian, so anything that's happened to us, especially on Sankirtan, is Krishna's sending it to us, constantly sending us these different things. It really opens the whole thing up.
Majjhima Adhikari, he's seeing four things, isn't he? He's seeing the devotee, non-devotee, envious, and he's seeing Krishna. Majjhima Adhikari is seeing Krishna. Kanishna isn't. Kanishna is just like, why is this happening like this? This is really weird. Doesn't see Krishna's hand behind everything. So Sankirtan can force you into the Majjhima Adhikari platform where you're able to see these things. When you see these four things going on, then it's very easy to engage in Sankirtan because you can see the devotee a mile off. You're running up the street because you can see this person needs a Bhagavad Gita, and sure enough, he stops and he's amazed that you've singled him out of 10,000 people walking down the street. You've seen this is the one, and Krishna's hand is there. Krishna's telling you, tell him, read this book and you won't commit suicide. You say, read this book, you won't commit suicide. And a few days later, the guy says, you just saved my life. I was on my way to commit suicide. So this is when Krishna starts to step in, and starts to use us as an instrument. You've got to be pure. One of the reasons why we have to be pure is because when that happens, you could get puffed up. You could be thinking you're God's gift to humanity, So Krishna's holding back. He's thinking, I can't give him too much mercy because the guy's going to get infatuated with it. And then he'll start making offenses because he'll be looking down on other devotees. He'll have this superiority complex, So, Krishna really does want to use us, but how pure can we be so that we can allow that to happen?
It's amazing. Sankirtan is so simple, compared to other services.
Yeah,
like if you boil it, it's just really simple.
I've had to stay back during the pandemic, and when I get back out, I was a little bit in trepidation. I was thinking, I've probably lost my touch now. I haven't been out for so long. I'll probably just be like, I'll have lost it, And I was out on Buchanan Street in Glasgow, and it was just like a fish in the water, just swimming along. It was like a very natural environment to be in, It was really, really nice.
For me, Sankirtan, it's exactly like a video game. Like when you stop playing a video game, it pauses, and then as soon as you pick it up, you pick up exactly where you left off last time you played it. And so for me, like if I have rough patch, I take a break from Sankirtan, I come back and I'm still on the rough patch. It seems to be like this continuous, almost like a story, you know what I mean?
If you're having a rough patch and you stop and you read, or you can speak to your spiritual master, or you can chant, and you have some powerful epiphany, and it can change, because it's just because there's something we're not understanding. Krishna's trying to tell us something. He's trying to tell us that there's some danger in our attitude, and we're not able to see it because we're so fixed on fulfilling our desires. Our main thing is we want our desires to be fulfilled, and anything that's going to jeopardize that, we're not going to really acknowledge it. So Krishna's like, okay, look, I'm trying to tell you something here. You've got to at least try to communicate. This is a dialogue taking place, and I'm trying to speak to you through the people, but by how they're reacting to tell you something, How long is it going to take before you tune in, before you wise up? So it's interesting also to look at it from that point of view, that surrender, because Krishna says, as they surrender unto me. So because everything about Krishna is personal, when you're talking about surrender, what you're really doing is, what it really means is, it's your reply in the conversation you're having with Krishna. Your whole lifetime now is a dialogue with Krishna. He's talking to you through the books. He's talking to to you through the people, through the devotees, and your ability to communicate and reciprocate is really what surrender is meaning. You know, how much are you able to tune in to what Krishna's trying to tell you?
Because that point of communication as well can be very difficult for a lot of us, because maybe in the past, in material life, when you communicate something, you might get exploited, or you might get, I don't know, it might not go the way. Plus, if you communicate to a senior, he might tell you something that you might not want to hear as well. You know what I mean? Like if he tells you the truth, or so it's like to actually be open and discuss these things is not as easy as it might seem, you know.
Yeah, sometimes it'll take a while for the penny to drop, and part of the problem is we want to take a while for the penny to drop. We're not in a hurry to get out of the material energy, and you know, and that's why the stage of Anartha Nivritti is a very difficult one, generally for most of us, because we all join as Kanishtas. We're trying to become Majjhima Adhikari. Majjhima Adhikari is only when you've passed through 75% of the Anarthas. When they're no longer there, then you're steady. Then you won't go up and down anymore. But 75% of your unwanted things isn't just this lifetime. It's stuff you've got in your heart from many lifetimes. Bucket lists of lifetimes of desires are there, you know. And
so how do you develop that urgency, you know? Because I was thinking the same thing today. Like, I would like to be urgent. I'd like to want to do this, but there's no feeling there. At least, you know, there's like this kind of desire to desire, but that's about it, you know.
You can't wait for the feeling. That's the other trick. Maya's like, okay, well, look, there's no point trying to do this artificially. Just wait until you feel like that. But if you wait until you feel humble, or you wait until you feel enthusiastic, and you could be waiting quite a while, whereas you can actually just be enthusiastic. You may not feel like peeling potatoes, or giving a class, or leading a kirtan, and you realize, well, I'm going to have to do it anyway, so I may as well do it enthusiastically. I may as well give it all I've got. And if you do that, utsaha nischat daryat, and then if you're patient, so it's like, because I think we're thinking, if I'm enthusiastic and confident, that's it, I've done it. But you've got to do it for a long time, not just for a couple of days, not just for a marathon. It's for a long time, and that's the hard part. We think, oh, I've done my bit now. I was really enthusiastic yesterday. I gave it everything I've got. Now just back off. Give me a bit of space. Give me a bit of me time. And Krishna's like, yeah, but you have to do this for a long time now. You have to keep it for a long time. So it's sustaining it, being enthusiastic and confident, endeavoring with confidence, and then being patient.
So with the process of surrender, I guess it's like, because you like the idea is nice that you just surrender and then Krishna takes you over and then that's game over. But it seems like it's less of a one-off surrender, but more of a long period of surrendering.
Yeah. It reminds me of quite often when I'm chanting my japa, I'm scaling up this mountain, and the mountain is a sheer face. There's these tiny, tiny ridges. I can just about get the tips of my fingers in it, and that's my taste for the holy name. And I pull myself up with each mantra, up this sheer face, this sheer cliff, and as I go on, sometimes if I'm very fortunate, the ledge gets a little bit wider, and I can get a better purchase, and then I can start to move faster, and I can feel myself scaling up the mountain quite quickly. And then if I'm really, really fortunate, I come up onto some level ground, and I'm able to start feeling not so much of a strain anymore. Things are becoming quite easy, and rather than climbing, I'm just walking along the talk, and everything's settled down. I'm focusing on the holy name, and there's no distractions there. It's becoming natural and enjoyable. So we're scaling up that mountain for quite a while until we get to the stage where there's ruchi. And when there's ruchi, then we're going down the other side. Then there's momentum, and then the surrender is effortless. It's just so natural. Our nature is our spiritual nature is so reawakened that we couldn't dream of resisting the attraction toward Krishna and surrendering to him in devotional service and preaching his glories. This is all starting to fully flow. And when we meet devotees that are like that, we realize that that's actually what we really want ourselves, and we're just being tricked by Maya. And when you get tricked by Maya and she slows you down, you never feel good about it. It's not like you look back and think, wow, I was really glad I didn't surrender that day. I had a great day. I just spaced out all day, and it was great. I had loads of chocolate. That was a really one of my best days I've had so far in Krishna consciousness. The only days you regret when you look back on your Krishna consciousness are the days that you didn't surrender. You never look back on the day you surrendered and regret it. You're just so glad that you did, So you want to add as many of those days, because it eventually gets to the point where you'll have that many days when you did surrender under your belt that it will carry you through the days when you don't really feel like doing this, or there's some doubts there, or you're feeling lethargic, or maybe you slip a bit off the path. But there's a lot of days of surrender there. Then you can stay buoyant in the ocean, and you won't just sink, and then again you'll be able to get back out and get on with it. So
it seems like because I just read something about this in that Gajendra pastime, but like how it's almost like sometimes Maya gets you, and you become this servant of Maya for a long period, and it's like all of your japa is just like your mind is just absorbed with material things, and you just have lost the strength to even battle it. You know what I mean?
Well, japa's it's hearing, chanting, and remembering. So I think the bit that gets missed out in japa for a lot of devotees is the remembering bit. They don't bother to store up some very powerful shastric points that they can remember when they're chanting. And then you automatically will compromise your absorption in the chanting, because you won't have anything that's energizing you, percolating in the back of the mind. So it's fair, we have to do the hearing and the chanting, and we have to be up in the morning and get our dhoti on and have a shower. That's all good. But you need to have found some really, really enthusing points about the holy name that you can remember whilst you're chanting.
Yeah. So it's more, really like focusing on the hearing to help. Yeah, I find that as well. Like recently I've been reading a lot of Light of the Bhagavat, and there's parts of that which talk about how this whole material world is kind of like just a temporary mirage. It's just like an illusory thing, and it's not a real identity. And when you actually have that knowledge in your mind, and these material things come up, it's almost like they seem insignificant and stupid in that context. But when you haven't heard that, they are so important, and they're like the focus of our, oh yeah, this would be really nice, or that would be really nice.
Yeah, we're just like children, and we need to grow up and get more mature. It's silly little things that are distracting us that we become infatuated by, and it just takes a while to grow up in Krishna consciousness, because we join when we're 20, and then we practice Krishna consciousness for 5 years. So we think we're 25, but we're not. We're actually just little 5-year-old kids. We're just like little daft infant kids, And the things we're getting caught up with, like, are really rinky-dink, stupid things, And then by the time we've been doing it till we're 50, we're 30 years old in Krishna consciousness. So we're starting to become a mature man now. So it just takes a while, That's why it's good if you can start when you're young, because it just takes a while to. And when you associate with your dad, you see that he's still like a kid. You realize, wow, okay, I'm a 5-year-old now. Well, my dad's like a toddler. He's just, you know, doing whoopsies in his nappy all the time, and he's just so daft and childish about things. And you've gone ahead of your father. You become more mature. You know, and as the years go by, then and you see as they're getting older, they have so little understanding of what's going to happen to them, and they're so little prepared for it. It's just like a child, you know. I'm going to have to go.